Time for another edition of the Everest Connections. I'm AP Harold. We're joined by another fantastic horseman from down under. It's Rupert Legh, co-owner of Masked Crusader. Rupert, appreciate your time, man.
Yeah, no, I always love coming on board. And, the good thing is we've got something to talk about. We've got a horse in the Everest.
You absolutely do. And we're going to get to Masked Crusader, but I want to back it up a little bit and talk. Whenever there's a horse that has a secondary nickname, you think about Secretariat was Big Red and Chautauqua, the Gray Flash, you know you've got something. And so walk me back in time when Chautauqua became Chautauqua. When did you know this horse was something special?
Look, I know John always had an opinion of the horse, and he was a colt, but he's doing what normal colts do. They muck up, and we were never going to see the best of him, even though we knew he had a lot of talent. So we then gelded, and you probably didn't see it until you saw the Bobby Lewis. He won races earlier, but the Bobby Lewis is when he actually stamped his authority and said, you know what, I'm a pretty good horse. He did it comfortably. Ayers Creek, I think he won by about 4 or 5 lengths on that day, and we looked at each other going, we think we've got a good horse.
You certainly did. And let's move a few years later, the 2017 TJ Smith Stakes, and Chautauqua wins for the third time in a row. It didn't look like that for 95% of the race. How confident were you and the other connections that Chautauqua was going to deliver?
Well, you're not going to believe this. I was actually laying in a hospital bed.
Wow.
Okay. So my surgeon, he knew I wouldn't be happy, but I had to get some major back surgery done, and that's when he could fit me in. He knew he would be in the bad books, knowing it would be the operation was only 2 days earlier. So there's no way known I could leave the hospital and get to the race. But so I'm laying in bed on my own, and it's quite funny because the year before, John Hawkes gave me a brown bear when I was in hospital again, having similar surgery. And he came in the night before the Everest. This is the third Everest. The third TJ. And he gave me another bear. He knew I needed company, being in the hospital ward of my own.
Right.
So I'm sitting there laying back in the ward, and like everybody else, at the 200-metre mark, no chance. And then we all started to get excited knowing what he can do in that last 100 metres. Like he does what most horses will never or can't do. And I know where the bears finished. They finished on the floor. I was looking for them. So obviously I got as excited as anyone at the end of the race. And it was ironical to that. The nurse came in about 10 minutes later and said, Mr. Legh, we need to do your blood pressure. And I said, I don't think it's a good time to do the blood pressure. She said, why? And I said, you won't understand. She said, well, you need to do it. And I said, well, at your own risk. So it was sitting normally around about 120 over 90, 90. It was up to 180 over 110. So she said, Mr. Legh, what have you been doing? And I said, you won't understand. So obviously that blood pressure told me exactly how I felt in the hospital bed watching that race of my own. But like everyone, and I think the race caller got it right. You will never see a better race in your lifetime. You may, but I don't think you will, for what he did that day. And you can take into account the Chairman's Handicap in Hong Kong, the lightning. But to me, that defined Chautauqua that particular day. That was like he did the Houdini that day.
Yeah, what was on the line there, combined with the horse's pedigree, combined with the finish? I think you're right. There may be some that can rival it, but there's no better horse race I've ever seen. I haven't seen as many as you have, but I was getting goosebumps just watching it myself. Our guest on the Everest Connections is Rupert Legh. He's co-owner of Masked Crusader. And Rupert, I want to ask you this. Being a lawman in your past life and now owning racehorses, they're both competitive. They're both unpredictable. What was it about your personality as a kid that led you into these two careers?
Look, I always had a passion for, racing even a kid in school. And I can take you back even, I can still remember it. I was only about 11 or 12 when I was at a high school in the country. Actually, it's Dalesford Tech High, and they used to have these sweeps on Cup Day. And believe it or not, I went in the sweep, and it was Gaddam, and he actually won the Melbourne Cup. So immediately I thought, hey, this is pretty cool. And then we moved to a town to Yarrawonga, which is northeastern Victoria on the border of New South Wales. And I was actually living with a family up there because my mother had left Yarrawonga looking for work, and I was living with my new family. And every Saturday morning I'd get up, and here she'd be looking at the form guide. And I'm only about, I don't know, 12, 13, 14 at this stage. And I was intrigued for what she was doing. She was picking out her daily doubles. There weren't quadrillas in those days. And so I took a really interest from that particular day into horse racing. And it followed me when I came down to Melbourne to go to school as well, that mates and I would go to what they call the Caulfield Flats. So at Caulfield Racetrack, you went to the inner part of the track. You paid 20 cents to get in. And I remember watching Arctic Symbol run. So it's always been a passion. And you're going back, gee whiz, 1966, 67, where, you know, we'd trek off to the track as 16 and 17-year-old kids. And, you know, what's the races at Caulfield on the flat?
You've got a fantastic horse in the Everest. You had a fantastic horse, the same horse last year in Masked Crusader. If you guys were able to pull it off, and last year you just about did. I mean, if it was 1,215 meters, you probably would have. Where would that rank in your many victories in your career?
Oh, that would have been, yeah, once again up there with particularly the chairmen. So, I mean, you can talk about the TJ, you know, for what Chautauqua did. You could talk about, we've been fortunate enough to win Caulfield Cups and other major Group 1s. But the Everest seems to be the pinnacle, doesn't it, now? It's got worldwide attention. It's now really captured the imagination of not just racing people, but also, you know, non-racing people. It's really is it's the event on the world market, I suppose, and people want to be part of it. For us to win it, we've been in it, fortunately, every year since its inception, and we still haven't won it. And yet, you know, we've been unlucky. You can talk about the unlucky runs that Chautauqua had on 2 occasions. Then you can talk about Sandarana Lane, who got boxed in and couldn't track down yes, being beaten the neck. Then you look at last year where Master had traffic jams all the way up the straight, and we thought we'd actually won. I think Tommy Berry and James McDonald both looked at each other, if you remember, as they crossed the finishing line, looking at each other, not knowing who had actually won that race.
Right.
And so it was that close. So if you ever say justice is deserved, I think this is our 6th attempt, I think it's the 6th year, isn't it? Is that right?
I think this is, yeah, we're starting the second half decade of the Everest. You're right. Year number 6.
Yeah, so I like to think we've got the horse to do it. He proved last year that he's well and truly up to the best sprinters in Australia, taking nothing away from Nature Strip. I mean, he's made his own, he's made his own life, his own story, and he is entitled to be rated the best sprinter in the world. He's been an unbelievable horse, and good on him and good on the owners. But I think last year we made a point that we can actually beat him. But when you're a back marker, you need a lot to go right. When you run off on the speed, you don't run into traffic jams. You don't have the issues that we have. And they're the sort of things that Chautauqua encountered. So you're going to lose races all the time because of the traffic jams you have. But I suppose that's what makes it exciting too from a spectator's point of view. Will he do the Houdini? Will he get through? Will he get out? Will he get the run? And you love those sort of back markers that can actually come home and go over the top and win the races. And fortunately or unfortunately, he's got the same racing style that Chautauqua's got. He's a back marker. So not that we wanted him to be, but he's obviously that's in his character and that's why he likes racing. So all your hope on the day is that we have a fair track. He has fair run in transit, and may the best horse win. You never want to leave a race saying, what if? And that's what I don't want, like last year. What if he didn't have those traffic jams? Would he have won? Probably he would have. And once again, that's not taking anything away from the winner because he makes his own luck.
This is the Everest Connections. He's Rupert Legh, co-owner of Masked Crusader. I'm AP Harold. When we think about Australia, it's a young country. You guys do things differently. When we think about the Everest, it's a young race and it's different. How proud across the board are Australians of what you guys have created down there?
Yeah, we have. And I think you're correct. It actually is now a worldwide event, isn't it? But what I think Australians are known for is we breed, fast horses. We breed sprinters. And I think we've gone more that way, and particularly in the last 10 years, if you look at all our, all our breeders, whether it's in New Zealand, or anywhere in Australia. I think we now tending to go down the path of finding those sprinter milers, and we're not breeding the stays anymore. And yet when you go to Europe, they breed those middle distance staying types. So I think we've got our niche market. I think the world knows we've got the best sprinters. We've proven year in, year out that our sprinters are the elite, and not only match the best in the world, but normally beat the best in the world. So we've no doubt we've got it right, the way we do breed. And as I said, that's why I think the rest of the world want to be part of it. And I think they're all now starting to try to breed their own sprinters because they want to be part of it.
Let's delve into that. Excuse me, Rupert. Let's delve into the breeding, particularly of Masked Crusader, Toronado, his sire. What else can you tell us about his lineage?
Yeah, look, I saw a Toronado race when I was over in Royal Ascot, and I took a real liking to the horse over there. I thought he was just a great racehorse. He was a absolute magnificent specimen of a horse. He was like a real, as I used to call it, a Charles Bronson. He was just had that real good masculinity, strong, athletic type of horse. And a very good friend of mine, Rick Smith, Gilgai Farm. And I think Rick's regarded as one of the best breeders in this country. And we were talking one day, and he said, I think you better get up here. I've got this young colt I bred. So get yourself up here and get John Hawkes up here and whoever else you'd like to have a look at it. And Cameron Cook, a bloodstock agent, he was kind enough to go up there as well and have a look. And they all gave him a massive tick of approval. So to do the right thing by Rick, rather than him selling it from the farm, we thought it was only fair it should go through the sale ring because we didn't really know what sort of price it would be worth. So I put together a group of friends before we went to the sale. We thought we'd have to pay a bit more for him. We thought we'd pay over $400, but we're lucky enough we didn't, because I don't think Toronado at that time was really making his mark on the market here. He has now, and thankfully I think Marshall was had us help him do that. But we went to the sale to buy him. We don't care, didn't really care what we were going to pay for him. He was coming home with us.
The decision was made. It's an industry, Rupert, with lots of colorful characters, but also beautiful colors. Let's talk about your blue and gold lightning bolt, which has become iconic and so associated with your brand. How did that come to be?
Yeah, look, that was a gift from my wife. Whether it's good or bad, she describes me like a bolt of lightning, everything I do. My favourite colours were always gold and blue. I went to a little school up in Redcliffe in Queensland, just out of Brisbane, Huppy Bong State School, and their colours were actually gold and blue, and they've been my favourite colours ever since. The gold, and also, which is obviously number one, gold, and the blue, the French blue, which is my favourite colour. Obviously, here I am sitting in French blue. And so she designed with a navy blue or the French blue background with a lightning bolt. And believe it or not, there was no lightning bolt anywhere in the world, not in Australia, nowhere in the world. And whether it's compliment or not, you're now seeing lightning bolts, different colours, different what would you call them, descriptions on their silks. But look, you take that as a good thing that people want to have a lightning bolt, or you can say, gee, they were our colours, why don't we just have our own sort of mark out there? But I think you've got to take it as a compliment that people like the design, the bolt. They're big in in Hong Kong, where Chautauqua won. But that was her design, and I think if anybody goes back, you'll find that was my wife's design. There wasn't one, but she actually designed something which we all like. I mean, anyone you talk to, they seem to love the colours and love the design, and it's once again a big compliment for what she is able to set out and achieve and get to me for my birthday.
And you know what, Rupert? Imitation is the sincerest form of flattery. It's definitely a compliment.
It is, and that's the way we've taken it. And that's why you've got to look at it and say, great, people like it, and let them enjoy it. I mean, they don't have the gold and the blue background, but we see the reds, we see the blues and greens, but so be it. As I said, it's great that people love what we've been able to design.
You talked about how the spectators love the Everest, and it's brought in a raucous, younger crowd. What does that mean for the future of horse racing, not only in Australia, but worldwide?
Look, that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to bring the youth into the industry, and the clubs, particularly here in Australia, are doing everything they possibly can to get the younger crowds to the races. Whether you agree with it or not, you've got music, you've got entertainment, and the way they're allowed to dress and present themselves, and I think it's great. And I think what the Everest has done is put that real atmosphere to a racetrack, carnival, that they want to be part of. And the good thing about the Everest is whether you can afford to have a horse in the Everest as an owner, but you know what? A group of you, if you want to, you can go and buy a slot in the Everest and have a horse in the Everest. And that's a great thing, because to me, when I first saw the concept, to me, I saw it as a business transaction. That not only was it there for the owner, but it was there for anybody who wanted to get involved and put together their own syndicate to actually own that slot. And they've become what I think it's just been a great concept. And from day dot, I thought it was always going to be a successful concept, and it has been. I think it'll only get bigger and bigger.
You've put together a number of syndicates. What do you look for in a co-owner that they can bring to the table?
I actually don't syndicate. It's probably not a good way of describing
I'm sorry. Okay.
What I do, and let me tell you, I wouldn't have achieved what I've been able to achieve as an owner without the support of a very close bunch of friends.
Gotcha.
And the good thing about the friends, they couldn't afford to go and buy a horse for the amount of money we're paying, but they can buy a small part of a horse. So we've been able to bring some friends into the ownership. Some take 20%, some take 5%, some may take less, but we're able to bring some really terrific friends into the horse and give them the opportunity they normally wouldn't get. So most of the people in our horses, 99% of it, are friends of mine. And I've always said, I take my hat off, and a big thank you to all those people that have supported me over 30 or 40 years of racing, that they've come in and supported what I bought, what our trainers support, and to be part of our ownership groups. And I must have had a lot of fun together, because racing horses, there's nothing better than being in a winning room with those happy smiles. I mean, like the other day, I was in the owner's room after a race, and you're thinking, this has got to be the happiest room in the world, which they are. But, on the other side, you have disappointment. And I think to the people watching racing out there, they don't see the other side. We see it with what can happen to horses. I mean, we've lost 3 horses in the last 2 weeks. A really up-and-comer. He was a Derby horse. We didn't see anything near what he could do. He got a lung disease. The treatment the vets gave him triggered off a heart attack. And you can talk about a lot of these stories, but when you have those sort of hard luck and bad stories, you've got your group of mates around you who you can share that disappointment with, or you can comfort each other through those disappointments. So you had the highs and you had massive lows, and you normally had more lows than highs. But the great thing is having your friends around you when you do have those lows.
You mentioned earlier the similarity between Chautauqua and Masked Crusader. Anything else that you could compare or contrast the 2 horses?
Look, you compare the 2 of them. I think, honestly, we know Masked Crusader is a world-class horse. And we've said this is going to be his preparation this spring. He's really now matured into the real horse. Does he need to improve to win the Everest? Maybe. Is he as good as Chautauqua? I don't think so. I think there's only one Chautauqua, and I think people need to remember that he did freakish things. Even though Masked Crusader's got that unbelievable turn of foot, I don't know if I've ever seen a horse to do what Chautauqua's ever done. I don't think anyone has, for that matter. I mean, I never saw Burnborough. I believe he was a back marker. But Chautauqua, you look at every one of his big wins, at the 100-metre mark, couldn't win. Couldn't. And yet he did. And I'm thinking, that's what gives you the excitement. I know Masked Crusader runs in a similar fashion, but there might be that little bit of 5% or 10% difference in Chautauqua and Masked Crusader.
I guess, to use maybe an analogy from your former career in law, you'd have detectives that are tracking people down, tracking suspects down. He tracks other horses down, Chautauqua, and gets that victory. That's uncanny. That's an unbelievable skill set.
Yeah, it is. But you know what? In business, what I do, I can't do it all, and I'm not good at everything. But what I do know, I need to put really good people around me, And that's how I've always lived my life, that you've got to have trust and faith and put the right people around you and have trust in them to make the right decisions. I mean, I can go out and look at a yearling, I can look at a catalogue, but at the end of the day, I don't have the skill set of the John Hawkeses, the Mike Moroney's, the Paul Moroney's, the Mick Prices, the Hazes, the Wallers. You go through them all. That's their forte. That's their expertise. We're there to support them. I can look at a catalogue and I get that normally right, but when you're looking at a particular horse, I'm looking at it and I'm thinking, what is he seeing so quickly that I don't see? I'm learning. But at the end of the day, I've always thought, put the best people around you, have total trust and faith in them, and then I'll give you every chance to go and get the successes you're looking for. And that's probably our formula that I've actually been able to do that.
Legendary Australian racehorse owner and businessman Rupert Legh, we appreciate your time on the Everest Connections and hope to be speaking to you in about a month's time right there in the winner's circle.
Yeah, well, so do I. And I think you never say you rode it, but I think we've had a real crack at it. And I think it would be a great outcome if we're able to pull it off this year and once again be part of what I consider great concept. Well done to Mr. Volandis and all his team up there. I think it's great and it's done a great amount for not only racing in Australia, but also for world racing. And a big compliment goes to everybody up north.
Rupert Legh, thank you so much.
Thank you.